Every morning, thousands of business owners wake up and check their competitors' prices. It is a relentless routine, fighting over fractions of a percent while profit margins get thinner and thinner. Strategists call this environment the red ocean. It is a crowded, highly contested space where products eventually turn into cheap commodities, and survival means constantly fighting against rivals just to stay afloat. For decades, standard economic theory dictated a strict rule for these waters: the trade-off. You had to choose. Either you run a high-volume business selling the cheapest option, or you run a low-volume business selling a premium, expensive option. You could not do both. Kiong Trading, a major wholesale wine distributor in Thailand, found itself caught in this trap. They were stuck fighting a war over a fixed number of existing retail and restaurant fires. To keep up appearances and fend off rivals, they bled cash. They hoarded massive global wine inventories to look impressive, and they extended dangerously long credit terms to secure accounts. Playing by the established rules of a red ocean only accelerated their financial drain. Escaping that cycle required a completely contrarian strategy. This is a chart showing the mechanics of value innovation. Notice how the traditional trade-off rule breaks. The two distinct metrics now move in parallel. Operational costs are driven down, while customer value is simultaneously driven up. To achieve this, you have to look toward the vast empty space representing non-customers instead of analyzing your current buyers. The first layer holds the soon-to-be non-customers. These are people who buy from your industry out of sheer necessity, but they are dissatisfied and waiting for any excuse to leave. Beyond them is the refusing demographic. These people considered your industry but decided against it because they find it too expensive or intimidating. Finally, the unexplored population. This massive group has never even considered your product as an option for their lifestyle. Kiong Trading looked at their bleeding margins and realized their survival depended on targeting these massive outer rings, ignoring the tiny center dot entirely. Fighting over existing customers is fighting over scraps. By systematically addressing these three layers of non-customers, a company can capture demand that competitors are completely ignoring. To capture those outsiders, Kiong Trading applied a precise tool, the ERRC grid. This stands for Eliminate, Reduce, Raise, and Create. First, they established what to eliminate. They stripped away the rigid snobbery and intimidating complexity usually associated with wine culture, removing the barriers keeping out the refusing demographic. Second, they chose what to reduce. They dropped the massive supermarket-style inventory and held on to a highly curated selection, which lowered their capital requirements and freed up physical space. Third, they identified what to raise. They rebuilt the concepts of a warehouse and a showroom into an aesthetic environment focused on storytelling. Finally, they determined what they needed to create. They blended Western wine with local Lansang culture and regional food pairings, an offering completely absent from the current market. Through this careful four-step process of eliminating, reducing, raising, and creating, the company entirely replaced their old wholesale identity with the Lansang Wine Gallery. Direct price comparisons became impossible. Buyers were no longer pricing a standard bottle of alcohol. They were paying for an experiential lifestyle. By cutting bloated industry norms and building local cultural ties, Kiong Trading stepped out of the pricing war entirely. They made competitor pricing irrelevant. The Lansang Wine Gallery successfully pulled in people who had never drank wine before, capturing demand from young art lovers and local tourists. Executives often launch a new product and claim they have found an uncontested market. To test if a strategy is a true blue ocean, you can apply a simple 3-point litmus test. Test number 1. Are you cutting costs? True value innovation demands a willingness to aggressively eliminate features. A strategy that relies entirely on adding expensive new services only bloats your overhead. Test number 2. Is the technology serving the customer or the marketing department? Forcing flashy technology into a product without solving a fundamental customer problem is an expensive distraction. Test number 3. Does copying your model terrify your competitors? A successful blue ocean forces massive incumbents into a corner. To copy you, they have to destroy their own existing business models and organizational structures. Sun Tzu wrote in The Art of War, "The greatest victory is that which requires no battle." That is the goal here, locating and dominating an uncontested market space where the fighting stops. However, inventing a new market only grants a temporary monopoly. The moment you prove there is money to be made, aggressive copycats will build ships and sail directly into your waters. To survive that inevitable invasion, you have to build an economic moat, and that is exactly what we will cover next.